Have you ever felt like the world has turned its back on you, leaving you stranded in a place where hope seems like a distant memory? This is the reality for many, but for one man in a small southern town, this feeling is all too familiar. In a world that often glorifies success and prosperity, it's easy to overlook those who have fallen through the cracks, their stories buried under the weight of despair. But sometimes, the most profound transformations begin with a single act of kindness. Meet Jake Thompson, a once prominent truck driver known throughout the highways and byways of the South. Jake was the kind of guy who could light up a room with his infectious laughter and hearty tales of the open road. He had dreams of one day owning his own fleet of trucks, of being a mentor to young drivers, and of conquering every highway from coast to coast. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, and for Jake, it came in the form of a devastating accident that took everything he held dear. Now, Jake lives in a dilapidated van parked behind a rundown diner, a shadow of his former self. The vibrant man who once thrived on the thrill of the road now finds solace in the small acts of kindness he offers to others, even as he grapples with his own despair. He spends his days doing odd jobs, mowing lawns, washing cars, and offering a helping hand wherever he can, all while clinging to a fragile hope that tomorrow might be better. His vulnerability lies not just in his circumstances, but in his unwavering faith that something good will come his way, a glimmer of light in an otherwise dark tunnel. The town, a quaint yet struggling community, mirrors Jake's plight. Its streets are lined with faded storefronts, and the sound of laughter is often replaced by silence as families struggle to make ends meet. The once bustling truck stop, where drivers from all over would gather to share stories and laughter, now sits eerily quiet, a testament to the changing times. The weight of economic downturns has left many grappling with uncertainty, and Jake is no exception. He feels the isolation keenly, a man adrift in a sea of despair, weighed down by the loss of his career, his truck, and ultimately, his identity. But the heart of the story lies not just in Jake's struggles, but in an unexpected twist of fate. Country music legend Alan Jackson, known not just for his chart-topping hits, but for his genuine heart, happens to pass through this small town. As he stops for a quick meal, he overhears whispers of Jake's story, the trucker who lost everything, yet continues to help others. Intrigued and moved, Alan seeks out Jake, driven by a desire to connect with someone who embodies resilience in the face of adversity. When their paths finally cross, the meeting unfolds with a palpable emotional weight. Alan sees in Jake not just a fallen man, but a kindred spirit, a man who understands the value of perseverance, the importance of kindness, and the beauty of never giving up. Their conversation flows effortlessly as they bond over their shared love for the open road, the freedom it brings, and the stories that come alive on the asphalt. In that moment, Jake reveals the depths of his pain, the tragic loss of his wife, in the very accident that changed his life forever. It's a revelation that deepens their connection, showcasing the profound impact of grief and the power of the human spirit to rise from the ashes. Then, in a moment that feels almost surreal, Alan surprises Jake with a fully loaded semi-truck, a gleaming embodiment of hope and renewal. The truck is more than just metal and machinery. It symbolizes a second chance, a lifeline thrown to someone who has weathered the storm. As Jake stands there stunned and overwhelmed, tears stream down his face. The gift represents not just a return to the road, but a restoration of his identity, a way to reclaim the dreams that once fueled his spirit. As news of the surprise spreads, it ignites a fire within the community. Residents rally around Jake, offering support and encouragement, reminding him that he is not alone in his struggles. The story transcends the small town, going viral as people everywhere are inspired by the power of kindness and the importance of solidarity. Jake's journey becomes a symbol of resilience, a testament to the idea that even in the darkest moments, light can break through, yet the emotional twists don't stop there. As Jake begins to rebuild his life, he opens up about the pain that has driven him to keep going, the memory of his wife, the dreams they shared, and the promise he made to her to always help others. His vulnerability resonates with many, inviting others to confront their own losses and find strength in vulnerability. The act of giving, he learns, is not just about the recipient. It's about healing, about finding purpose amid the chaos. The aftermath of that fateful day ripples through the community, stirring conversations about the importance of kindness, empathy, and support for one another. Jake's story serves as a reminder that no matter how far we fall, there is always a way back, a path that can lead us home, even if it's not the one we initially envisioned. It inspires a movement of compassion, urging others to reach out to those in need, to lift each other up, and to remember that everyone has a story worth telling. As the sun sets over that small southern town, casting a warm glow over the streets, Jake Thompson stands beside his new truck, a symbol of hope and resilience. The road ahead may still be uncertain, but with each mile, he carries the spirit of his wife, the strength of his community, and the unwavering belief that tomorrow holds the promise of a new beginning. In a world that often feels divided, Jake's journey is a powerful reminder of the unbreakable bonds of humanity, of the profound impact of kindness, and of the unexpected friendships that can change our lives forever. As Jake Thompson settled into the driver's seat of his new truck, the weight of hope felt both exhilarating and daunting. It had been a whirlwind of emotions since that fateful day when Alan Jackson had gifted him the vehicle that represented a second chance. But the euphoria of the moment began to fade as the reality of the road ahead set in. The truck was a lifeline, yes, but it came with responsibilities and expectations that loomed like storm clouds on the horizon. Jake's first challenge came sooner than expected. As he prepared to take his inaugural journey back on the road, he faced a mounting anxiety that gripped him tighter than the seatbelt around his waist. The familiar sounds of a diesel engine felt foreign, almost intimidating, and he could feel the echoes of his past insecurities creeping back in. What if something went wrong? What if he wasn't as good of a driver as he once was? The fear of failure gnawed at him, and he wrestled with doubt, questioning whether he truly deserved this chance. The first leg of his journey took him to a neighboring state, where he was to pick up a load of goods for delivery. As he navigated the winding roads, memories flooded his mind of the countless miles he had traveled with his wife, sharing laughter and stories under the vast southern sky. Each mile felt heavy with nostalgia, and the realization that she was no longer beside him left a gaping hole in his heart. He fought back tears, reminding himself that he needed to push through, that he had to honor her memory by living fully. While at the truck stop, Jake encountered a group of young drivers, eager, ambitious, and full of dreams. Among them was a spunky woman named Lily, who had just landed her commercial driver's license and was excited to hit the road. She approached Jake with a bright smile, curious about the truck he was driving. Their conversation began lightheartedly, with Lily asking questions about his experiences. But soon, she sensed the weight behind his responses, and her enthusiasm shifted to concern. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked, her eyes searching his. Jake hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. The fear of burdening someone else with his pain held him back. "Yeah, it's been a while since I've been on the road. It feels different now," he admitted, forcing a smile. Lily nodded, understanding the unspoken complexities of his journey. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. We're all in this together, right? Her warmth was genuine, and for a moment Jake felt a flicker of connection, a reminder that he was not alone in this vast world of trucking. But as he prepared to leave, a sudden storm rolled in, dark clouds blotting out the sun and drenching the pavement in a torrential downpour. The weather mirrored Jake's emotions and his. Heart raced as he contemplated the idea of driving in such conditions. Doubts swirled in his mind like the wind whipping through the trees. He could hear his own thoughts echoing the fears of inadequacy, the whispers of his past failures. As he sat in the truck, staring out at the rain-soaked asphalt, a familiar face appeared at the window, Lily, drenched but determined. "Let's go together," she suggested, her voice cutting through the sound of the rain. "I'll follow you in my rig. We can tackle this storm side by side." Jake hesitated. The offer was generous, yet it filled him with apprehension. What if he made a mistake? What if he faltered and embarrassed himself? But he also recognized the lifeline she was offering. Could he trust someone else to support him? The internal struggle was palpable, but something within him stirred, a desire to break free from the chains of his fear and embrace the possibility of companionship. "All right," he finally said, his voice steadier than he felt. As they began their journey through the storm, Jake felt a renewed sense of purpose. Lily's presence was a balm for his wounded spirit, and the camaraderie they shared helped ease the tension in his chest. They exchanged stories, sharing laughter that echoed through the truck cabs, cutting through the heavy atmosphere. Yet, as the miles rolled on, the storm intensified, and with it, so did the challenges they faced. The roads became treacherous, and visibility dropped to nearly nothing. Jake's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, his heart pounding with each twist and turn of the highway. He could feel the pressure mounting, his doubts resurfacing with a vengeance. What if he couldn't handle the truck? What if he lost control? His fear threatened to consume him, but he forced himself to keep moving forward, to focus on the road ahead. Suddenly, a flash of lightning illuminated the darkness, and Jake's truck jolted as he hit a deep pothole. Panic surged through him. As he fought to regain control, the truck swerved, and he felt the weight of the world crashing down on him. He glanced in the rearview mirror, seeing Lily's rig struggling to keep pace. In that moment, he realized the importance of not just his journey, but the responsibility he had taken on as a mentor, even if it was unintentional. Stay calm," he whispered to himself, breathing through the fear. He focused on the rhythm of the engine, the sound of the rain on the roof, and the knowledge that he was not alone in this. He pushed through his self-doubt, reminding himself of the kindness he had shown others, of the strength he had found in vulnerability. With renewed determination, Jake maneuvered the truck with precision, steering through the storm with newfound confidence. He could feel Lily's energy radiating from behind him, encouraging him to keep going. When they finally reached the delivery point, relief washed over him like the sun breaking through the clouds. They parked side by side, and as the rain subsided, Jake stepped out of the truck, taking a deep breath of fresh air. Lily approached him, her smile wide and genuine. "You did it! I knew you could!" Jake's heart swelled with gratitude. The bond they had formed in those challenging moments was something he hadn't anticipated. Yet with that bond came the realization that he needed to confront the emotional toll that the journey was taking on him. As they unloaded the cargo, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he was still grappling with the ghosts of his past. The emotional scars from the accident lurked in the shadows, ready to rear their heads at any moment. He found himself questioning his ability to mentor Lily, to be the guiding light he once aspired to be. What if he failed her too? In the days that followed, Jake's struggles deepened. He wrestled with feelings of inadequacy, haunted by the thought that he might never escape the shadow of his past. He faced logistical challenges as well, navigating the complexities of paperwork, permits, and the financial realities of running his own business. Each hurdle felt like a reminder of his previous failures, a constant battle against his own fears. Lily, however, refused to let him spiral into despair. She became not just a friend, but a source of empowerment, challenging him to confront his doubts head-on. "You're not defined by your past, Jake," she would tell him, her unwavering encouragement pushing him to find his footing. "You have so much more to offer than you realize. Don't let fear dictate your journey." Despite her support, Jake struggled to internalize her words. He felt a growing chasm between who he was now and who he had once aspired to be. The weight of his dreams felt heavier than ever, and he grappled with the fear that he might never be whole again. Would he continue to live in the shadow of his past, or could he forge a new path, one that embraced both his pain and his resilience? As he sat alone one evening in his van, reflecting on the day's challenges, he felt a surge of emotion. The ache of loss was still there, but it coexisted with a budding sense of hope. Perhaps the journey was not just about recovering what he had lost, but about redefining himself in the wake of that loss. The idea began to take root in his heart, and for the first time, he allowed himself to consider that maybe he could rebuild not just his career, but his entire life. In the quiet of that moment, Jake made a promise to himself. He would embrace the challenges, face the storms, and accept that the road to healing was not a straight path, but a winding journey filled with ups and downs. With each mile driven, he would honor the memory of his wife and the dreams they had shared, while also allowing himself to dream anew. The emotional landscape ahead would be daunting, but with the support of friends like Lily and the strength he was beginning to tap into, he felt ready to take on whatever came next. The next morning, he decided to reach out to the community that had rallied around him. He organized a small gathering at the diner, inviting anyone who had been touched by his journey. It was time to share his story, to inspire others, just as Alan had inspired him. As he prepared to speak, he felt a flicker of that old spark within him, the desire to connect, to uplift, and to remind others that kindness and resilience could light even the darkest paths. As Jake stood before the gathered crowd, he felt the weight of his past, but also the burgeoning strength of his present. He shared his story, the struggles, the pain, and the pivotal moments that had shaped him. The response was overwhelming, with people sharing their own stories, their own struggles, and the kindness they had encountered along the way. In that moment, Jake realized that while the road ahead would be fray as days turned into weeks, Jake Thompson found himself navigating not only the physical roads of trucking, but also the tumultuous terrain of his own emotions. The initial thrill of his new life was beginning to fade, revealing cracks that threatened to unravel the very foundation he was trying to rebuild. The community gathering at the diner had sparked a flicker of hope, but the challenges loomed larger than ever. One evening, while parked at a rest stop, Jake received a call that sent shockwaves through his heart. It was the trucking company's owner, informing him that due to unforeseen circumstances, the loads he had been counting on were being reassigned. "We're sorry, Jake, it's just business." The man's voice was curt, devoid of empathy. The news hit Jake like a punch to the gut. He had been banking on that income to stabilize his finances, to regain some semblance of control in his life. Now, the ground beneath him felt shaky, and he was left grappling with the reality that he might have to return to square one. The implications were dire. Without a steady stream of work, he risked losing not just his truck, but the independence he had fought so hard to reclaim. In a moment of desperation, he called Lily, his friend and fellow driver, hoping for reassurance. When she answered, her voice was bright, but he could hear the underlying concern as he explained the situation. "Jake, don't let this get to you. You know what you're capable of. There are other opportunities out there. You just need to keep looking." Her words were meant to uplift, yet they also served as a reminder that he was on his own in this battle. As the days turned into weeks, Jake's search for work proved fruitless. The mounting pressure of financial uncertainty began to fray his nerves. He found himself losing sleep, tossing and turning in the cab of his truck, haunted by nightmares of failure. The emotional toll was palpable, manifesting in a short temper and an inability to focus. He often snapped at Lily, who had been nothing but supportive, her patience wearing thin under the strain of his mood swings. Their friendship, once a source of strength, began to feel like a fragile lifeline. Compounding his distress was the reality of his dwindling savings. He had always prided himself on being a provider, on being the man who could take care of himself and others. Now, with every passing day, that sense of identity was slipping away. The weight of shame pressed down on him, and he was haunted by thoughts of his wife. What would she think of him now? One rainy afternoon, while parked at a cafe, Jake overheard a conversation between two drivers about a trucking company that was recruiting. The excitement in their voices was palpable, and something inside him stirred. But as he considered applying, doubt crept in. What if he wasn't good enough? What if they rejected him? It was a familiar refrain, one that echoed through his mind, like a relentless storm. Meanwhile, Lily was also facing her own challenges. Despite her initial excitement about the trucking life, the realities of the road were beginning to wear on her. She had been forced to confront the realities of gender, bias in a male-dominated industry. On one occasion, a fellow driver had belittled her skills, claiming she was only in the business because of affirmative action. The comments, though unfounded, stung deeply, and she found herself questioning her place in this world. Determined not to let her spirit be crushed, she became even more resolute in her pursuit of excellence. She committed to taking on more challenging loads, pushing herself to prove that she belonged. But with each passing day, the weight of the world felt heavier, and the pressure to succeed began to strain her budding friendship with Jake. She wanted to uplift him, yet his resistance to her encouragement made her feel helpless and frustrated. One evening, after another fruitless day, Jake and Lily found themselves at the same diner where they had first shared their stories. The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken tension. Jake sat staring at his empty plate, lost in thought, while Lily fidgeted with her phone, unsure how to break the silence. Finally, she leaned forward, her voice firm yet compassionate. "Jake, you can't keep doing this to yourself. You're letting fear dictate your life. You have to take a leap of faith." Jake's eyes flashed with frustration. "You don't understand, Lily. I can't afford another failure. This is my last chance." His outburst surprised them both. The weight of his emotions spilled over, revealing the chasm of despair he had been hiding. Lily took a breath, her expression softening. "I do understand. I've faced my own battles out here too. But we can't let fear control us. What if you applied to that company? What if you took a chance on yourself?" The idea hung in the air, and for the first time, Jake considered it. But the doubt returned, swirling in his mind. "What if they don't want me? What if I fail again?" "Then you try again," Lily said, her determination unwavering. "You're stronger than you think. You've come this far. Don't let the past dictate your future." Jake's heart raced as he processed her words. He felt the familiar stirrings of hope battling against the fear that had gripped him for so long. But could he really do it? The thought of stepping into the unknown was terrifying, yet the thought of remaining stagnant was equally suffocating. When he finally left the diner that night, he felt a shift within himself. The fear was still there, but it was accompanied by a flicker of determination. He had a choice to make, to let the shadows of his past consume him, or to step into the light and embrace the possibility of a new beginning. The next morning, Jake sat in his truck, staring at the application form for the new trucking company. His hands trembled slightly as he filled it out, each stroke of the pen a reminder of the risks he was taking. He was terrified, but he was also ready to confront his fears head-on. As he submitted the application, a sense of relief washed over him. He had taken a step forward, but he knew the road ahead would not be easy. The emotional scars of his past still lingered, and he would have to confront them as he navigated this new chapter in his life. Meanwhile, Lily was also grappling with her own journey. She had decided to attend a women's trucking seminar, hoping to find strength in numbers and learn how to advocate for herself in the industry. As she prepared to leave, she realized that she had been so focused on supporting Jake that she had neglected her own growth. The seminar could serve as an opportunity to empower herself and, in turn, uplift Jake. The tension between their individual struggles and their friendship became a delicate balancing act. Each of them was fighting their own battles while trying to support the other, and the pressure began to strain their bond. Yet, beneath the surface, there was a mutual understanding, a recognition that they were both in this together, even if they were at different points in their journeys. As the weeks progressed, Jake received a call from the new trucking company inviting him for an interview. Excitement and dread coursed through him. He needed to prepare, not only for the interview itself, but also for the emotional hurdles that lay ahead. What if he stumbled over his words? What if they saw through him and deemed him unworthy? On the day of the interview, Jake dressed carefully, choosing a clean shirt that reminded him of happier times. As he approached the office building, his heart raced and he felt the weight of his past pressing down on him. But he also felt a flicker of hope, a small but resolute flame igniting within him, pushing him to move forward. Inside the interview panel was warm and welcoming, but Jake could sense their scrutiny. Each question felt like a test of his worthiness, and he fought against the urge to retreat into self-doubt. But as the conversation unfolded, he found himself opening up about his journey, the struggles he had faced, the losses that had shaped him, and the resilience he was beginning to discover within. Just as he thought he might be making headway, a question struck him like a bolt of lightning. How do you plan to cope with the pressures of this job, particularly given your past experiences? For a moment, Jake faltered, caught off guard. The question forced him to confront the very demons he had been trying to outrun. But instead of shying away, he took a deep breath and shared his truth. I've learned that my past doesn't have to define my future. I've faced challenges that have tested my limits, but I'm committed to embracing the journey ahead, no matter how difficult it may be. The room fell silent as he spoke, and he could see the panel exchanging glances, perhaps recognizing the sincerity in his words. In that moment, Jake felt a surge of empowerment. He was no longer just a man haunted by his past. He was a man willing to confront it and forge a new path. After the interview, he left the building with a sense of accomplishment, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. He had faced one of his greatest fears and emerged on the other side, stronger and more resolute. But as he drove back to his truck, the reality of his situation began to settle in again. What if he didn't get the job? Meanwhile, Lily had returned from the seminar, invigorated and inspired. The experience had opened her eyes to the strength of female drivers in the industry and the importance of collaboration. As she shared her newfound wisdom with Jake, she could see the spark in his eyes. But as the days passed, the tension in Jake and Lily's friendship thickened, like a storm cloud ready to unleash its rain. Both of them were fighting their own battles, intertwined yet separate, and the strain was beginning to show. Jake had just come from what he hoped would be a turning point in his life, but the uncertainty still gnawed at him. Lily, invigorated by the seminar, was eager to share her newfound strength, yet sensed Jake's hesitation to embrace change. One fateful evening, while parked at a bustling truck stop, everything shifted. A commotion erupted nearby as a group of drivers argued over a perceived injustice. A fellow driver, a woman in her mid-30s, had been unfairly dismissed from her job after a minor accident that was more of a mechanical failure than a mistake. On her part, as the voices grew louder, the tension in the air crackled, drawing Jake and Lily's attention. Jake's instinct was to turn away, to retreat into the safety of his truck and block out the chaos. But something compelled him to stay. He watched as the woman, visibly shaken, stood her ground against a group of men who were dismissing her concerns as trivial. He felt a familiar pang of empathy. He could see himself in her shoes, battling against the tide of judgment and prejudice. Lily, on the other hand, felt the stirrings of determination within her. This was exactly the kind of scenario she had learned about at the seminar, the importance of standing up for oneself and for others. Without thinking, she stepped forward, her heart racing, and joined the conversation. "This isn't right," she said, her voice steady. "You can't blame her for something beyond her control." The shift in the atmosphere was palpable. The men turned their attention to Lily, their expressions a mix of surprise and disdain. Jake felt a wave of admiration wash over him as Lily stood her ground, her posture strong and unwavering. Yet he also felt an unsettling fear. What if the situation escalated? What if she faced backlash for her bravery? The argument intensified, and Jake's instincts kicked in. He couldn't just stand by. He joined Lily, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "We need to support her," he said, his voice firm. "This could happen to any of us out here. We have to stick together." In that moment, something shifted within Jake. He was no longer just a man consumed by his own struggles. He was part of a community, standing up against injustice. The camaraderie and solidarity sparked a fire inside him, igniting a determination he thought he had lost. He felt a surge of purpose, a reminder that he wasn't alone in this fight. But the men were unyielding, and the confrontation escalated. Jake felt the tension rise, a knot forming in his stomach. The fear of repercussions loomed large, but he pushed through it, fueled by Lily's bravery. He turned to the woman who stood with tears in her eyes and said, "You're not alone. We're with you." As the situation reached a boiling point, a manager from the truck stop intervened, diffusing the chaos and assuring the woman that her concerns would be taken seriously. The men retreated, but the emotional impact lingered. Jake and Lily shared. A glance, the weight of the moment settling between them. They had faced a challenge together, and in doing so, they had reaffirmed their bond. Later that night, as they sat in the truck, the events replayed in Jake's mind. He felt a mixture of exhilaration and fear. He had stepped outside of his comfort zone, but what if he put himself out there only to be rejected again? Lily sensed the turmoil within him and reached out, placing her hand on his arm. "You did great today, Jake. You stood up for someone who needed it. That's who you are. You're fighting your battles, and now you're helping others fight theirs." Her words resonated deeply. In that moment, Jake realized that his struggles were not just about his own failures or fears. They were part of a larger narrative, a story of resilience, community, and empowerment. He could reshape his identity, not only as a driver, but as someone who had the power to effect change, both for himself and for others. The next day, Jake received a call from the new trucking company. They wanted to schedule a second interview. As he hung up the phone, his heart raced with a mix of excitement and dread. This was an opportunity, but it also came with the weight of expectation. He shared the news with Lily, who beamed with pride. "See, you're on your way." But even as he celebrated, doubts crept back in. What if he wasn't enough? What if he failed again? Yet, as he prepared for the interview, he found himself reflecting on the events of the previous night. He had stood up for someone else. He had fought against injustice. He realized that failure wasn't the end. It was simply a stepping stone to growth. In the days leading up to the interview, Jake focused on channeling the energy from that confrontation into his preparation. He practiced his answers, visualized success, and reminded himself of the strength he had seen in Lily and the woman at the truck stop. He was no longer just seeking a job, he was embracing a chance to redefine his path. On the day of the interview, Jake walked into the office with a newfound sense of purpose. He was no longer just a man burdened by his past. He was a man ready to forge ahead, armed with the lessons he had learned from standing up for others. As he faced the interview panel, he spoke not only of his skills and experiences, but also of his commitment to resilience and community. The questions flowed, and for the first time, he felt unafraid. He shared his story, the challenges he had faced, and the determination he had found within himself. The panel listened intently, and as he spoke, he could see their expressions shift from skepticism to understanding. He had transformed into a candidate who wasn't just looking for a job, but was seeking a place where he could contribute, grow, and support others. As he left the interview, Jake felt lighter than he had in weeks. He had confronted not just the potential for rejection, but also the strength he had found within himself. The road ahead was still uncertain, but he was ready to embrace it, knowing that he was not just a survivor of his past, but a champion for his future. Meanwhile, Lily emerged from her seminar with a renewed sense of identity. She had learned that her voice mattered, that her experiences were valid, and that she could be a source of empowerment for herself and others. The challenges she faced were daunting, but she was ready to confront them head-on. Both Jake and Lily stood at a crossroads, ready to embrace the opportunities that lay ahead. They had faced their fears, supported one another, and discovered a deeper connection through their shared struggles. The journey was far from over, but they were no longer alone. Together, they were ready to take on the world, 1 mile at a time. As Jake drove down the highway in the days following his interview, a whirlwind of emotions coursed through him. The exhilaration he had felt after the interview had dissipated, replaced by a nagging doubt. He replayed his answers in his mind, questioning every word he had spoken. Had he really conveyed his passion? Had he truly captured the essence of what he wanted to bring to the company? Each mile felt heavier, laden with uncertainty. Meanwhile, Lily was navigating her own storm. She had taken the lessons from her seminar to heart, but the reality of applying them in the often harsh world around her was proving to be more complex than she had anticipated. The confidence she felt during the seminar was beginning to waver as she faced the daily challenges of asserting herself in a male-dominated industry. It was one thing to stand up for someone else. It was another to advocate for her own right, to be heard and respected. One evening, they found themselves at a diner, the air thick with the scent of fries and coffee. The booth they occupied felt like a sanctuary amid the chaos of their lives. As they shared a meal, the conversation drifted from light banter to the weight of their respective fears. Jake could see the determination in Lily's eyes beginning to falter. "I just don't know if I can keep this up," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to be strong, but it feels like every time I try to speak up, I'm met with resistance." Jake leaned in, his heart aching for his friend. "You're not alone in this. Remember what we did at the truck stop? We stood up for someone who needed it. We can do that for ourselves too." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I know it's hard, but we're fighting the same battle, just in different ways." Lily nodded, but the doubt lingered in her eyes. "What if I fail? What if they don't take me seriously?" Jake could feel the gravity of her words, the fear of failure that mirrored his own. It was as if they were two sides of the same coin, each wrestling with their insecurities while trying to uplift the other. The Next day brought an unexpected surprise that would change the course of their journey. Jake received a message from the truck company. They wanted him to bring in a reference. The weight of expectation settled heavily on his shoulders once again. He had been so focused on his own struggles that he hadn't considered the impact this moment could have on Lily. He knew that she would understand the significance of this step. He had to share the news with her, but he also felt the pressure of the opportunity slipping through his fingers. Later that evening, he found her. At the diner again, her brow furrowed in concentration as she thumbed through her notes from the seminar. He took a deep breath, steeling himself. "I got a call today. They want a reference," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The words hung in the air, both a promise and a burden. Lily's eyes lit up with excitement, but that spark quickly dimmed as reality set in. "That's amazing, Jake, but what if they don't like your reference? What if it doesn't work out?" Her voice trembled slightly. Jake recognized the fear of failure reflected in her expression. It was the same fear that threatened to consume him. "Then I'll keep trying," he replied, determination rising within him. "I've come too far to back down now, and you should think the same way. You've got the strength. I've seen it." As they spoke, Jake felt a flicker of resolve igniting within him, fueled by their shared vulnerabilities. He suggested they reach out to their former employers for references, to bolster their confidence and support each other. Lily agreed, but it was clear they both needed to dig deeper, confront their pasts, and prepare for the challenges ahead. In the days that followed, they both took stock of their lives. Jake revisited old friendships, seeking affirmation and support from those who had always believed in him. He also reached out to the woman from the truck stop, wanting to check in and see how she was doing. Her gratitude and resilience inspired him, reminding him of the power of community and the importance of supporting one another. Meanwhile, Lily began to assert herself more at work. She practiced her speeches in front of the mirror, declaring her worth and capabilities. The more she spoke, the more she believed in her own voice. She even found an unexpected ally in her boss, who had been observing her growth and offered her a chance to lead a small project. It was a pivotal moment, a chance to prove to herself that she could rise above the doubt. But as they prepared for the final confrontation, Jake's reference call and Lily's project presentation, an unexpected obstacle emerged. Jake learned that his former employer had been less than pleased with his departure, and the reference he had hoped for might not be as glowing as he had anticipated. The news hit him like a brick, the weight of disappointment crashing down on him. He felt his heart sink, the familiar spiral of self-doubt creeping back in. He confided in Lily, who listened intently as he expressed his fears. "What if this is it for me? What if I'm just destined to fail again?" He lamented, frustration lacing his words. Lily reached out, placing a comforting hand on his arm. "You can't think that way, Jake. Remember all the times you've stood up for others. You've shown strength when it mattered. You have to. Trust that you're capable of more than you realize." Her words resonated within him, sparking a flicker of hope. He realized he couldn't let this setback define him. He had to find a way to turn this situation around. Determined, he reached out to another former colleague, someone who had always appreciated his work ethic. He explained his situation and asked for a reference, knowing that this might be his last chance to salvage the opportunity. Meanwhile, Lily faced her own moment of reckoning. As the day of her presentation approached, she felt the weight of expectation pressing down on her. She had prepared tirelessly, but doubt still crept in. Would her colleagues respect her ideas? Would they see her as a leader, or would they dismiss her as just another voice in the room? On the eve of her presentation, she found herself at the diner, the familiar setting now a comfort in the storm. She saw Jake across the room, his expression thoughtful as he stared out the window. Gathering her courage, she approached him. "I need you to know something," she said, her voice steady. "I'm ready to take this chance. I'm going to stand up and speak my truth no matter what." Jake looked at her, admiration swelling within him. "You're going to crush it, Lily. Just remember, you're not alone in this. I'm right here with you." In that moment, they shared a silent understanding, a bond forged through their struggles and triumphs, ready to face the world together. As they prepared to step into the unknown, a sense of unity enveloped them. They were no longer just individuals fighting their battles. They were allies, ready to confront their fears and challenge the barriers that stood in their way. Together, they would face the final confrontations that awaited them, drawing strength from each other as they moved forward into the uncertainty of their futures. The next day, as Jake awaited the call from his former employer, he felt a mixture of hope and apprehension. He had taken the steps necessary to advocate for himself, and now it was time to face whatever came next. He reminded himself that every failure was an opportunity to learn and grow. He had already stepped outside of his comfort zone, and he would do it again, no matter the outcome. Simultaneously, Lily stood before her colleagues, her heart pounding in her chest. She took a deep breath, recalling the strength she had found over the past few weeks. This was her moment to shine, to assert her place in the industry she loved. She opened her mouth to speak, ready to share her vision and inspire those around her. In that pivotal moment, both Jake and Lily were poised on the brink of transformation, fueled by the lessons of their past experiences and the unwavering support they found in each other. The road ahead was fraught with challenges, but they were ready to confront them, emboldened by the knowledge that they were not alone in their journeys. It was time to rise, to embrace their true selves, and to fight for the futures they both deserved. Jake sat on the edge of his seat, anxiously tapping his fingers against the worn table at the diner. The ticking clock on the wall seemed to echo his racing thoughts, each second a reminder of the looming call that could change everything. His phone buzzed on the table, and his heart leaped as he snatched it up, only to find it was just a message from Lily. She had sent him a quick note of encouragement before her presentation, reminding him that they were in this together. Meanwhile, across town, Lily stood before the conference room, filled with her colleagues, her palms sweaty against the clicker for her presentation slides. The room buzzed with hushed whispers, the eyes of the audience trained on her, with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. She could feel her heart thudding in her chest, a drumbeat of doubt threatening to drown out the confidence she had built over the past few weeks. As she took a deep breath and began her presentation, the words seemed to flow out of her, fueled by the passion she had rekindled within herself. She spoke about her vision for the project, the innovative ideas she had cultivated, and the strategies she believed would lead to success. But just as she began to feel the energy of the room shift in her favor, a voice interrupted her. "Are you sure this is the right direction? This approach seems a bit naive," one of her colleagues chimed in, skepticism lacing his tone. The room fell silent, all eyes now fixed on Lily, expecting her to falter. In that moment, she felt the weight of every doubt she had ever harbored. The self-doubt that had plagued her in the past clawed at her insides. But then she remembered Jake's words, the solidarity they had forged through their struggles, and the strength she had found in herself. "No," she said, her voice steady. "I believe this is the right path. We need to challenge the status quo if we want to innovate." She met the skepticism with conviction, her heart racing but her resolve firm. The energy in the room shifted again, this time in her favor. As she continued, she saw nods of agreement and sparks of interest igniting. In her colleagues' eyes, each word she spoke was a step further away from the doubts that had once held her back. Meanwhile, back at the diner, Jake was still waiting for the call that felt like a lifeline. Each moment stretched on, and the anticipation became unbearable. He replayed the conversation he had had with his former colleague, hoping that he had made the right choice. Just as he began to spiral into doubt again, his phone rang and he jumped, nearly spilling his coffee. With trembling hands, he answered. The voice on the other end was familiar, but the tone was less warm than he had hoped. "Hi, Jake. Thanks for reaching out. I wanted to talk to you about your reference." Jake's heart sank. He braced himself for the worst. But as the conversation unfolded, he found an unexpected ally in his former colleague. "I know there were some bumps in the road when you left," the voice admitted, "but I remember the dedication and hard work you put in. I can give you a fair reference." Relief flooded through Jake, but he also felt a surge of gratitude. This wasn't just a win for him, it was a testament to the strength of the connections he had fostered, the relationships he had built. Despite his doubts. "Thank you," he replied, his voice laced with sincerity. "That means more than you know." As he hung up, a smile broke through his anxious facade. The future still felt uncertain, but he had taken a step forward. It was in that moment that he realized the importance of resilience and the power of reaching out for support. Back in the conference room, Lily had reached the climax of her presentation. "This project isn't just about numbers or trends. It's about making a difference," she stated passionately. "We have the opportunity to be leaders in our field and to inspire change. Let's not shy away from that." The room erupted into applause, and she could hardly believe it. She had faced her greatest challenge, not just in presenting her ideas, but in standing firm against the doubts of her peers. She felt a wave of triumph wash over her, a powerful affirmation of her worth and capability. As the applause died down, one of her bosses stood up, a smile spreading across his face. "I think we should take this project forward. Lily, I'm impressed by your vision and leadership." At that moment, Lily felt her entire journey coalesce into a single point of clarity. She had fought against her fears and emerged stronger, not just for herself, but as a voice for others who felt silenced. Later that evening, Jake and Lily met back at the diner, both buoyed by their respective victories. Jake shared the news of his reference, and Lily recounted her presentation's success. They exchanged smiles filled with relief and satisfaction, their friendship deepening as they celebrated each other's triumphs. In that diner, surrounded by the familiar hum of life, they realized that their journey was far from over. They had faced their greatest challenges, but the lessons learned would carry them forward. As they clinked their glasses together, a silent promise formed between them to continue to uplift each other, to confront the doubts that lingered, and to embrace the uncertain future with courage and strength. They left the diner that night knowing they were no longer alone in their struggles. Their bond had transformed through adversity, and they were ready to face whatever came next, fueled by hope and the unwavering belief that they could achieve their dreams together. As Jake and Lily left the diner, the air was thick with a mixture of triumph and hope. They walked side by side, their shoulders brushing against one another, a subtle reminder of the bond they had forged through their respective struggles. Each step felt lighter, as if the burdens they had carried were finally being lifted. In the days that followed, the immediate consequences of their victories began to unfold. For Lily, the approval of her project meant not just professional recognition, but a chance to lead a team that believed in her vision. The respect she had earned from her colleagues transformed her presence in the office. She was no longer just another voice in the crowd, but a beacon of inspiration. Colleagues who had once doubted her approached her for guidance, seeking her perspective and expertise. This newfound influence allowed her to mentor others, particularly women who felt overshadowed in the workplace. Lily was not just championing her project, she was also advocating for a more inclusive culture within her organization. Jake, too, felt the ripple effects of his conversation with his former colleague. The promise of a fair reference opened doors he thought had long been shut. Shortly after their meeting at the diner, he received a call for an interview with a company that aligned closely with his values and aspirations. The prospect of a fresh start reignited a spark within him, one that had been dimmed by past failures. He poured his energy into preparation, reflecting on the lessons learned from his previous job, and vowing to approach this opportunity with the determination and resilience he had cultivated alongside Lily. As the weeks passed, both Jake and Lily took time to reflect on their journeys. In quiet moments, they would often find themselves contemplating the obstacles they had faced, the self-doubt, the fear of judgment, the moments when they felt like giving up. For Lily, the realization that she had stood up to skepticism marked a turning point in her self-perception. She understood now that her worth was not determined by the opinions of others, but by her own beliefs and ambitions. The feeling of empowerment surged through her. She was not just a participant in her career, but an architect of her future. Jake, too, found himself in a space of introspection. The call from his former colleague had not only provided a lifeline, but had also served as a reminder of the importance of relationships. He recognized that his past failures did not define him. Instead, they had shaped him into someone capable of growth and change. As he prepared for his upcoming interview, he embraced the idea that success was not merely about attaining a position, but about finding fulfillment in the work he chose to pursue. The impact of their victories extended beyond just themselves. Colleagues at Lily's workplace began to take notice of the shift in dynamics. Inspired by her courage, others began to share their ideas more openly, fostering an environment ripe for collaboration and innovation. The leadership team recognized the need for a more inclusive approach, and discussions began about creating mentorship programs aimed at empowering underrepresented voices within the organization. For Jake, his interactions with his peers at the potential new job were equally transformative. His confidence shone through during interviews, and he found himself engaging in meaningful conversations about the company's mission and values. He quickly became known for his thoughtful insights, and his willingness to share his experiences resonated with those around him. It became clear that just as Lily was inspiring change in her workplace, Jake was also influencing the culture of the company he aspired to join. As they continued to support one another, their friendship deepened. They became each other's sounding boards, celebrating victories and navigating setbacks together. On one particular evening, they found themselves back at the diner, reflecting on the journey thus far. The familiar setting had transformed into a space where they could articulate dreams and aspirations without hesitation. They spoke of their goals, Lily's ambition to lead more projects that challenged the status quo, and Jake's desire to carve out a career that resonated with his values. In those moments, they recognized the essence of their friendship. Two individuals who had faced adversity and emerged transformed, emboldened not just to pursue their dreams, but to uplift others along the way. They talked about the importance of solidarity and how their experiences had taught them that success was not a solitary endeavor, but a collective journey. As they wrapped up their conversation, Jake looked at Lily with sincerity. "I don't. I think I would have had the courage to even apply for this new job if it weren't for you," he admitted. Lily smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "And I wouldn't have had the confidence to stand up in that conference room if it weren't for your unwavering support. We've both come so far." They left the diner that night with a renewed sense of purpose. They understood that the road ahead would not be without challenges, but they were ready to face whatever came next. Together, they had dismantled walls of doubt and built a foundation of resilience and hope. In the weeks that followed, both Jake and Lily found themselves on paths that aligned with their aspirations. Jake received an offer from the company he had interviewed with, a role that not only matched his skills, but also aligned with his values. He embraced this new chapter with enthusiasm, ready to make an impact. Lily's project, launched successfully, garnering positive feedback and positioning her as a leader in the organization. She felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that her efforts were not just about personal achievement, but about inspiring change within her team and beyond. Through their experiences, they had learned invaluable lessons about the power of resilience, the importance of community, and the strength found in uplifting one another. They had faced their fears and emerged as advocates for themselves and others, ready to challenge norms and inspire change. As they continued their journeys, Jake and Lily carried with them the wisdom of their experiences, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, they could create a meaningful impact, not only in their own lives, but in the lives of those around them. They had become catalysts for change, not just for themselves, but for a broader community, illustrating the profound strength found in solidarity, empowerment, and the courage to dream together. As Jake and Lily continued to navigate their newfound paths, the world around them began to change. They had faced their fears and emerged stronger, each embodying the very essence of resilience and hope. Their journeys had intertwined, and in their shared experiences, they discovered not just personal growth, but a profound connection that reinforced the idea of solidarity. One sunny afternoon, after weeks of hard work and dedication, they found themselves once again at the diner, a place that had witnessed their struggles and triumphs. The familiar scent of coffee and the sound of clinking dishes surrounded them as they settled into their booth, a sense of comfort enveloping them. Lily looked across the table at Jake, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I can't believe how much has changed since that day we met here. It feels like we've both stepped into a new chapter of our lives," she said, her voice filled with awe. Jake nodded, a smile breaking across his face. "It really does. I never thought I would feel this way again. So hopeful and ready for what's next," he replied, reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this moment. As they sipped their coffee, they spoke of their aspirations. Lily shared her vision for the upcoming projects she would spearhead, each idea brimming with creativity and potential. "I want to create a space where everyone feels empowered to share their ideas, just like we did," she said, her passion evident. "I want to make sure that no one feels sidelined or unheard." Jake listened intently, his heart swelling with pride. "You're going to change the game, Lily. Your leadership is going to inspire so many people," he encouraged, realizing how far she had come and how much she had earned her place at the table. In turn, Jake revealed the excitement he felt about his new role. "I can already see the impact I can make. I want to foster a culture that values integrity and collaboration. I'm ready to contribute in a way that aligns with my values," he said, a newfound determination in his voice. He spoke of his plans to initiate projects that championed social responsibility and inclusivity, mirroring Lily's own aspirations. As they discussed their goals, a sense of purpose washed over them. They were no longer just dreamers. They were doers, ready to challenge the status quo and inspire change. The realization that their journeys were interconnected filled them with hope. Together they could create ripples of positivity that extended beyond their individual lives. After finishing their coffee, Jake and Lily stepped outside into the warm sunshine. The world felt alive with possibilities. As they walked side by side, they reflected on the lessons they had learned. They understood that resilience was not just about enduring hardships, but also about embracing change, lifting each other up, and believing in the power of their dreams. In that moment, they made a pact, a commitment to support one another as they journeyed forward. They would continue to be each other's cheerleaders, mentors, and friends. They understood the importance of community and knew that their individual successes were intertwined with the growth of those around them. As they reached the end of the street, Jake paused, turning to Lily. "You know, it's amazing to think about how far we've come. We've turned our struggles into strengths, and now we have the chance to help others do the same, he said, his eyes shining with resolve. Lily smiled back, feeling the weight of his words. Absolutely. It's our responsibility to create a space for those who feel unheard or unsupported. Together, we can make a real difference, she affirmed, her heart filled with purpose. With that, they set their sights on the horizon, ready to embrace the opportunities that lay ahead. They knew the road might still be challenging, but they felt prepared to face whatever came their way. They had each other, a bond forged through struggle and triumph, and that made all the difference. As they walked, the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow over everything. It felt like a sign, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always light to be found. They were ready to chase that light, to inspire others, and to be the change they wanted to see in the world. In their hearts, they carried the understanding that their journeys were just beginning. They had learned the importance of resilience, the power of community, and the strength found in lifting one another up. As they embraced the possibilities of the future, they knew they would continue to grow, challenge themselves, and inspire change. And so, with hope in their hearts and dreams in their sights, Jake and Lily stepped boldly into the future, ready to make their mark on the world. Their story was a testament to the transformative power of friendship, empowerment, and the courage to pursue one's dreams. As they moved forward, they invited others to join their journey, to share in the lessons learned and the victories celebrated. They knew that together they could create a brighter, more inclusive future for all. In the end, their experiences reminded them, and anyone who crossed their path, that it's never too late to rise above challenges, to find one's voice, and to inspire those around you. Their journey exemplified the truth that change begins with individuals willing to embrace their potential and support one another. As they walked away from the diner, laughter and conversation filled the air, echoing the message that resonated within them. Together, they could change the world, one small act of courage at a time. And in that moment, they knew they were not just moving forward, they were paving the way for others to follow, lighting the path with hope, resilience, and the unwavering belief that dreams can become reality. To anyone listening, take heart from Jake and Lily's journey. Remember that your struggles are not in vain. They can lead to incredible transformations. What steps will you take today to lift yourself and others? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us of the power of resilience, community, and hope. Your journey matters, and together we can create a brighter future.